Hi, Caleb Danzy here with Danzy Design Build, and today I wanted to talk to you about getting your home ready for an accessory dwelling apartment or accessory dwelling unit or a basement apartment in your home in Herriman City. So today we're going to talk about 5 things that we need to look at right on the very front end of the project to make sure that we're going to meet all the city requirements, and a couple things that are going to make it easier for us to actually build the basement when you get to that point. So the first thing that we're going to check on is the zoning. Herriman City requires that accessory dwelling units are only allowed in agricultural zones and residential zones that have a lot size of 6,000 square feet or larger. So that's about 0.13 acres. And then it has to also be a single family home. So those are the zoning requirements that we need to make sure that we meet. The next thing that we need to look at is the parking situation. Herriman City requires that you have 4 parking stalls for a residential home, and you can count the garage parking. So if you have a 2-car garage, that would count as 2 parking spaces, and then you'll probably have 2 more parking spaces in the driveway outside of the garage. So you'd have 4 parking stalls or spaces available. So that would meet the requirements of the city. And when we add an ADU to the home in Herriman, we're actually allowed to count one of those stalls as the stall for the actual basement tenants. So that works out. However, if let's say you only have a single car garage and a single parking space in the driveway, that would only be 2. So we would need to add more driveway space to accommodate the ADU downstairs, the basement apartment. So once we figured out the parking situation and what we're going to do there, the next thing we need to look at is the actual entry into the basement. So a lot of times we like to just use an existing basement entrance to get access through a basement door into the basement apartment. But if you don't have a basement walkout entry, you can actually install one. We can actually build one that's allowed by the city. The only requirement that they have there is that it meets the setbacks on your property, and that it's on either the back of the home or the sides of the home on the back half of the house. So that's where we can put the basement entry into the basement apartment. So once we've figured out that, the next thing we can do, we can move into the actual basement and start looking at some different things, how to lay out the space. And so one way that we like to do this, it's more economical this way, to plan the floor plan around the plumbing that's existing. So we're looking specifically for the plumbing drainage piping. So there's a black ABS pipe. It's used for plumbing wastewater drainage, and that is what we're going to be looking at. Where can we find the existing plumbing stack is what it's called. It's a vertical pipe where the upstairs plumbing fixtures are draining through. So that's going to be most likely a really ideal place to install a kitchen sink nearby that plumbing stack. The other thing is the bathrooms. A lot of times the bathrooms are stubbed out and already prepared to accept the wastewater drainage. So a lot of times the plumbing is for the bathroom drainage is already set somewhere, and so we like to just use that space for the bathroom. The next thing that we're going to look at is the washing machine and the dryer hookups, and those are pretty easy to install close by the kitchen sink or close by the bathroom, maybe on the other side of the wall of the bathroom or the other side of the wall of the kitchen if that's an interior partition wall. If not, we can run some drainage piping in the exterior wall framing of the basement to tie in those wastewater drains lines from the actual washing machine. So once we've figured out the actual plumbing and we've thought about some layout in the inside, another thing we're going to need to consider is where are we going to put the bedrooms and the living rooms. So bedrooms are required to have what they call an egress window. And the requirements for egress window are that they're 22 inches wide, clear opening space when the window's open, and a minimum of 20 inches tall, and a total of 4 square feet of area that a person could actually exit through on the clear opening span. So that would be considered egress window. We need to make sure all the bedrooms have at least that much clearance so that someone could exit in an emergency. Once they've exited, we need to also make sure that the actual window well is big enough that they could stand in the window well and actually exit. So the requirements on that is that the window well needs to have a minimum of 9 square feet on the square footage of the footprint of the window well, as well as 36 inches space from the home to the farthest point of the window well. And it needs to have a ladder so that they could climb up and out of the window well in an emergency. So once we've looked at those things, we have a pretty good idea on if the basement is going to be able to be converted or built into an ADU meeting the city requirements and egress codes, as well as planning the layout of the floor plan so we can utilize the existing plumbing and make good use of that. So if you have any other questions about basement finishing, turning your basement into a basement apartment in Herriman or the surrounding areas, we would love to talk to you. We can help you out with that. You can reach us on our website at danzydesignbuild.com and schedule a consultation. We'd love to meet with you. So hope you have enjoyed this video and hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.